everybody. I'm John Moran with the Rogers-Lowell Area Chamber of Commerce, and we are having our second of our Lowell City Council forums in front of us today. We've got Ron Mead and Steve Whitehead. They're both running for Ward 4, Position 1 in Lowell. We appreciate them coming today and sitting with us for a few minutes to talk about themselves and what they would like to do as a member of the City Council of Lowell. We'll go ahead and start with Steve. Steve, if you'll just tell us a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to run for the City Council.
Thank you for hosting this. My name's Steve Whitehead. My wife and I moved to Lowell shortly after being married 23 years ago. Raised our family in Lowell. We both used to work at J.B. Hunt. She does not anymore. And attended First Baptist Church of Lowell shortly after moving to Lowell also, and have been there since. What motivated me to run, honestly, when I was asked if I would, my initial answer was no. And then I was told that there was a possibility of 3 family members being on City Council, and I didn't think that was a good idea, so I said I would give it some thought. After giving it some careful thought and weighing the pros and cons, my wife and I are at a place where we don't have kids living at home anymore, and it's been a great city to us, so I felt like maybe it was time for me to give back to my city and help the city grow.
Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself and your motivations for running.
Sure. My name is Ron Mead, and I do thank you for inviting me today. And I was a resident of Lowell 20 years ago, and my business kind of took me a different way, but we moved back to Lowell not too long ago, and always have been involved in Lowell politics over the years, and have spent a lot of time, working with Lowell, and it's what we call home, a place we call home. But what motivated me to run basically was there's a couple issues that I'm really behind, and that is removing the fast food sales tax, or the hamburger tax that's in Lowell. And you might ask why. And number one, that tax is not in either community, Rogers or Springdale. And I believe that it fundamentally mostly hurts the fixed income and low income families. And I also believe that it possibly keeps new restaurants from coming into the market, into Lowell. So that's the first part of it. The second part of the money spent, we don't know how the money's spent. The money is managed by A&P committee, and the city doesn't get any of that money. So if those funds were available for the city, and the city needed that money to operate, it'd be one thing. But I really feel like that it just puts a lot of burden on families in the community. Second thing I'm running on is that the step systems in Lowell are it's not if they're going to fail, but it's when they fail. We're going to have the funds set aside in a plan that will actually, help us to move over into a system that will work without wrecking the city. We don't want to end up like Bethel Heights, so I want to make sure that I'm in there using some of my business background to help manage a program that will put us on public sewer at some time.
Okay. Northwest Arkansas is a growing area, and so is Lowell, growing right along with it. What are some of the priorities or things that you would like to see done to distinguish Lowell from the rest of the cities in Northwest Arkansas? Because when you drive up and down I-49, all of the towns kind of run together. What do you think is going to make Lowell stand out from the rest of the I-49 corridor in Northwest Arkansas? What are some of your ideas on that? Steve, I'll start with you, and we'll come back here.
So I strongly believe that the entire Northwest Arkansas area, which is Benton, Washington, and Madison counties, population is somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 550,000 people. I strongly believe that Lowell is the hub of all of that. It's almost equal distance in between Bella Vista to Fayetteville. The Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport is a short distance away. Beaver Lake is a short distance away. So most people travel through Lowell, either intentionally or not. So as this area continues to grow, Lowell is going to continue to grow also. And infrastructure is a huge part of that. Ron mentioned step system. I definitely believe step system is a issue also. And believe that we need to work with Springdale Water to make sure that we have adequate capacity for that as we attempt to get off of those step systems. It's just a matter of how we leverage that and how we approach that and timing, because it's definitely going to cost the city money. It's definitely going to cost homeowners money. Other issues that I see, just like anywhere else in Northwest Arkansas, just like anywhere else in the world that is growing at the rate that we are, roads are an issue. It is probably within the next 10 years that 264 will need to be widened. There's an issue currently being talked with City Council about putting a roundabout at 264 in Bellevue. And those step system or sewage and roads are probably the two biggest infrastructure issues. They just opened the south corridor of Dixieland over to Apple Blossom. That's going to relieve some pressure off of 49. As soon as Springdale opens it the rest of the way over to Wagon Wheel, that will give a real nice north-south avenue that takes pressure off of 49 and takes pressure off 71 also. So.
Thank you. Ron, what would you like to see make Lowell stand out among Northwest Arkansas cities?
Well, I think that that's probably going to be harder to do than to be talked about. But the reality is that a lot of the communities to the south and north of us have really built up while Lowell hasn't. And there's a lot of reasons why that hasn't happened. There was a lot of land here, but landowners didn't want to sell it or didn't want to sell it for a price that they wanted to get. So we kind of got left out of the picture a little bit over the last 10, 20 years. But I think what Lowell can do that could really turn us around and make it be a destination point is that we have that property at the Kathleen Johnson property, and I would love to see something really unique land in there. I know they're talking about an observatory and some other things, but I would be behind it all the way if we could put in a destination point here so that when they come to Northwest Arkansas, they want to visit whatever that might be. I mean, that could be a huge museum or could be some type of government thing, like if you go to Hutchinson, Kansas, a small community, they have a great display of military equipment on display, or any kind of thing like that that might set us apart. So when they come into this market, they'll be able to visit us, shop at our stores and our restaurants, and even stay at the hotels.
All right. Well, Lowell is the home of a Fortune 500 company, one of the three that we have based here in Northwest Arkansas. What more do you think the city can do to attract more of those types of companies, larger companies, or help with a culture that allows companies to come in and grow and flourish? I know that there's a project coming in across the highway there on 64. But along those lines, do you think what can Lowell do, or you do as a city council member to help promote that kind of growth in Lowell?
Well, personally, I'd like to see us set up a team within the council that goes out and works businesses and other sources that might be interested in locating somewhere or moving somewhere else. But to talk about bringing them into our community. Biggest issue we're going to have is, the infrastructure. How do you get people from point A to point B? The land and the utilities to take care of those things. So I think on a more broader point, to me, I would say that we need to develop the small commercial businesses like restaurants and stores and that type of thing. And I mean, we have to look at bringing sales tax into our city, and that's primarily how we're going to be funded over, for the near future and for the distant future, really. So if we can bring new businesses in here and increase our sales tax revenue and the property tax revenue that comes from those type of things, I think you can do a lot with a lot of small companies. And they contribute to the sales tax, where a lot of larger companies may not contribute to the sales tax base at all. So you could take 100 acres for a project, or you could put 100 businesses on 100 acres. So for me, I look at it, small is better in a lot of cases.
Steve, got any thoughts on attracting more business to Lowell?
Absolutely. I think Lowell has turned the corner to being more business friendly, but they need to continue turning that corner and get on down the road. I believe there's room in Lowell for anywhere from a small to a large business. But again, it goes back to infrastructure as the stopping point. I think there's land to be bought. There's possibly some landowners may even think about donating land. I don't know. But if you have the land and you don't have the infrastructure to go with it, then you really got nothing. And as far as attracting medium to large businesses, if they wanted to come into this area and they wanted to come into Lowell, they're going to want tax breaks already. They're not going to want to pay to have infrastructure run to their plant or their office building or whatever. So that would be a total turnoff for them, I believe.
Okay. All right. I guess this question is looking farther out. What would you like to see Lowell, I guess, the 10-year plan, the 15-year plan? What do you see as an issue that could help Lowell grow along with Northwest Arkansas that would really help them in that area?
You addressing that to me?
Yeah.
Well, for years I've heard, I've talked to individuals, being in the business community, I've talked to people who have talked about locating here and they don't. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And depending on what administration's been in place over the years, the codes, changed wildly, and the way that we administered the codes changed wildly. So I would like to see, if I get on council, that we develop a plan that supersedes the present administration and allows us to have something pretty stable in the zoning and all the planning that goes on, that it's uniform but it's very flexible, and that we are working particularly hard to attract those businesses here rather than sending them away. And I know over the time we've sent businesses away, and then we open up and we become really friendly to business, but the feeling outside is people think that we're kind of wishy-washy as a community for attracting business and for keeping business. So I think that's one of the first things we need to do on a 10-year plan. But secondly, I think we have to figure where the money is going to come from, how we're going to be funded, the revenue, that it's going to be consistent, it comes in every year, and it's increasing at an increasing rate, so that we can support the infrastructure work that we need to do and support the employees that we need to have to do that kind of work. So again, I think the 10-year plan for me is to grow the commercial side of our community. And we've got land that's slated for that right now. It's in the master plan. We got plenty of land that people can come in and that businesses can come in and locate. And I think it's our job as a council to make that happen, to really start to grow that end of the revenue side of our city.
Steve, your thoughts on Lowell in 10 to 15 years? What would you like to see?
10 to 15 years, I would like to see the Dixieland corridor from wherever the line starts shortly around fast lanes all the way to where JB Hunt's at. I would like to see that Dixieland corridor be used for small to medium business and to really concentrate on making Lowell not just a place to come build a warehouse, but come build a business and to grow with the city. With that, as this entire area grows, we also need to be mindful of residential also. The current estimates for the 2020 census is that Lowell is going to be approaching just under 10,000 residents. And I see a 10-year plan where we could be easily at 15,000 or more. And again, it's going to take a lot of infrastructure to get there. And that's something that the council has to do is to provide answers to that and to continue to be business friendly so we can get those businesses in here and continue to have sales tax revenue and have the money to meet all those goals.
All right, we're about 3 minutes away from being about 20 minutes, like I've said we would be. So, Ron, we'll start with you. It's not necessarily a closing statement, but leave us with something with the voters and the viewers to consider you for the city council. And Steve, we'll go right into you after Ron.
Well, I'd have a kind of a 3-point message there, and that is that one, experience. I served on city council in Bethany, Oklahoma, 4 or 5 times larger than Lowell. I was a member of the hospital board. I was a 6-year member of the 4 Acres Bethany Public Works Authority. Worked with Oklahoma City on a number of projects. So I've got the experience. 2, I've got the business background. I ran a TV and appliance chain in Oklahoma City for 15 years. It was our business, my wife and I's business. And we were successful at that. And I've been successful at budgeting and managing funds, and I feel like I can take that experience and apply it to the city. The second thing to that is that I was a sales manager for Lennox Industries for 25 years. I was a business consultant, so I've worked with businesses of all sizes in the heating and air conditioning industry to make them be successful. So I want to take that same philosophy and apply it to businesses that want to come to our community and to the city, so we know how to work with those businesses. And finally, I would say that not only do I have the experience and the business side of it, but I can offer availability to our constituents. I'm self-employed now. I'm retired from Lennox. I did start a business in 2015, Remix Music, but I'm free to move around. I have a team there that runs the store. And so I'm going to be accessible. You're going to be able to call me on my phone, and I'll be able to talk to you when you call me. And you're going to be able to ask me to come visit your site, and I'll go do that with you too. I'll have the flexibility to move around and go see the constituents of Lowell.
Thank you, Ron. Steve, a little bit.
2 words that come to my mind right now are loyalty and dedication. I've lived in Lowell not quite half of my life, but 23 years. I'm only 48. I've worked at J.B. Hunt 30 years in February. I've attended FBC Lowell about the same amount of time I've lived in Lowell. So Lowell is my home. If I have my way, my wife may think differently, but if I have my way, Lowell will always be my home. And so I am dedicated to Lowell. I am loyal to Lowell. I have worked in many different positions while at J.B. Hunt, working with different people, working with different companies. I know how to work with different people and companies. I've done leadership roles. I've been the entire gambit while I've been there. Even mentorship for other junior members. So that's what I'm gonna bring with me, and that's what I'm gonna offer the people of Lowell. Is one of them. I am one of them.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming today. I would just want to thank y'all for putting yourself out there. Running for office is not an easy thing to do. It's not for everybody, but we're glad that you have chosen to do it. I want to remind our viewers that early voting starts in Benton County and in Lowell next week. And the early voting location in Lowell is Grace Lutheran Church. So if you're a Lowell resident, you're looking to where to go early vote, Grace Lutheran Church is your location. But once again, thank y'all for thank y'all for tuning in and watching. And Ron and Steve, thank y'all for putting yourself out there for public service. We really appreciate it. And we wish y'all the best of luck in your campaign and hope y'all have a good weekend and stay safe. Thank you all.
Thank you.